Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video from the tartan-clad boys from Scotland, the Bay City Rollers. And in that video, we talked about the fact that, if it wasn't for them and perhaps bands also like ABBA, we wouldn't have had, you know, the focus more on fans in music. And certainly I talked about the fact that in that video that the Bay City Rollers probably have a significant place in music history. Certainly with their 300 million album sales, that sort of success cannot be denied. So I trust you enjoyed that one. Well, we go from there to a bunch of guys in the US. In fact, we're talking at US rock royalty today. They were formed in 1961, and certainly between 1962 and 2012, they have released 30 studio albums, countless singles, countless compilation albums, and countless live albums. So between 1962 and 2012, 30 albums, and there has not really been a gap in those releases either. They've been pretty consistent through that whole time, and having sold over 100 million albums, they are one of the most successful acts of all time. Now, again, formed in 1961 by the Wilson brothers, Brian Wilson, Carl Wilson, and Dennis Wilson, Al Jardine, and Mike Love. And another guy that has been significant through their career is a guy called Bruce Johnston, and he is also well known for writing the song I Write the Songs, which Barry Manilow made famous and I spoke about a little while back. Now, unfortunately, Carl Wilson and Dennis Wilson are no longer with us, but Brian Wilson certainly is. And the band I'm talking about is the Beach Boys. When the Beach Boys were formed, it was in the culture of the surfing culture. We had songs like Fun, Fun, Fun and Surfing USA. They're very much fed into the teen culture at the time. I suppose with their fresh sound, their impeccable harmonies, which is obviously one of the trademark things that makes the Beach Boys so famous, is their vocals and how well they sing together. Incredible vocal harmonies. And being able to play their instruments as well just makes this act so compelling. And so, yeah, they very much were feeding into the teen US culture at the time, that whole surfing culture and everything that made young people young people. Well, while the Beach Boys were doing their thing in the UK, in the United States, there was another bunch of guys in England, the Beatles, who were doing their thing. And as has been well documented, for the first half of their career, they were performing in front of screaming fans, and they got to the point where enough was enough. And they said, nah, we're not going to do this anymore. We're just going to create music in the studio. And so in 1965, out came the album Rubber Soul, which included such classics as Norwegian Wood, Michelle, Drive My Car, Nowhere Man. It was very, very apparent and really, really obvious here that the Beatles, who were not being bombarded with performance commitments, had the space and time to create music and to create lasting music. And Rubber Soul certainly became a statement to the world of what can happen when you're given space to do such a thing. Well, Brian Wilson, and I'm sure a lot of the world was taking notice of this fact. And so Brian also, I suppose, had been in amongst fans and performing. And he started to imagine, well, what can I do to be inspired by this Rubber Soul experience? And so he set about wanting to create an album of of a similar thing. There was to be no filler songs on this album. Every song had to be exceptional. Every song had to be amazing. The production had to be first class, revolutionary, and never been done before. And so in 1966, out came the album Pet Sounds, with such songs as Wouldn't It Be Nice and Sloop John B and God Only Knows. There was innovation in the production of these songs. There was creative genius in the writing of these songs. Brian Wilson has been hailed as a musical genius. And we started to see, certainly from 1966 onwards, how creative he actually was to release Pet Sounds. Now, interestingly, probably the Beach Boys' signature tune, Good Vibrations, didn't come off the Pet Sounds album. I think Brian knew that Good Vibrations was just one of these songs, and he just needed to get it absolutely right. And as he was doing that, the record company kind of ran out of time and had to get Pet Sounds out into the market. And so interestingly, Good Vibrations would have been on Pet Sounds if there'd have been more time. But it ended up coming out on the next album, Smiley Smile, in 1967. And I think there's a little bit of regret from the Beach Boys that it would have been great for it to be on Pet Sounds, but not to be. I think about Pet Sounds taking inspiration from Rubber Soul. I think what Brian wanted to do was not just to create another good album, another great album. He wanted to create an exceptional album. An exceptional album, an album that would always be in the psyche of the music industry. And I think, in this day and age, there's certainly many of opportunities where things need to be good. I mean, it always has to be good. There are certainly opportunities where things need to be great. But every now and then, I believe we all have an opportunity to create something exceptional. Exceptional. Something you can look back on and think, wow, how incredible to create that thing that was exceptional. I think it starts with a mindset, as we find with Brian Wilson. He said, I need to create an answer to Rubber Soul, and it needs to be fantastically brilliant. So that was the mindset at the start. He may not have known all the things that needed to happen at the start, but because his mind had been switched on to this exceptional mindset, the innovations and the genius and the creativity came along as the album continued to be recorded and produced. And so I think that's the challenge, a challenge to all of us today, is to think about, well, if we've done good stuff and great stuff, have we done exceptional stuff? Something that changes the world, something that changes our lives in particular and those around us. If I could think of a couple of other examples, I think, obviously man landing on the moon is an exceptional moment. I mean, they didn't know at the start all the things that were going to be needed to actually make this happen. But the mindset of, we're going to do this thing and it's going to change mankind forever, was the driving force. And it just dragged all the maths and the engineering and the design and the courage and everything needed to actually pull it off. And so when Neil Armstrong took that first step and he said, a small step for man and a giant leap for mankind, that giant leap was an exceptional leap. Also think about maybe, I think the iPhone is probably another example of exceptional world changing. I don't know if you've watched Steve Jobs' launch of the iPhone, where he talked about it in an exceptional way. He knew he had a product that was exceptional. He had combined an iPod, a phone, and an internet device with incredible touch screen technology. You turn the phone, it turns into landscape mode. You put it back the other way, it becomes portrait mode. He knew he was on a good thing. No stylus, use your fingers. The world changed forever when the iPhone was released. It was an exceptional moment. And I'm sure those in Apple now would look back with fondness and to see that we created a truly exceptional moment when we created the iPhone. What an exciting thing to be able to do, to create an exceptional thing. And I suppose, we may know there are many exceptional things that don't get the publicity, but we know that when we create them, we've changed the world somehow. Even if it's only in our small part of the world, we've changed the world. We've made a difference. It's an exceptional moment. This is what Brian Wilson was trying to do with the release of Pet Sounds. And this album has been hailed as one of the most significant albums of all time. Who would have thought an album with the name Pet Sounds would be such a thing? But it is an exceptionally well produced, well recorded, well delivered album. Exceptional moments. I suppose the challenge for all of us, if you've got a project coming up or a particular event coming up, can we move past good and great? Can we move to exceptional? The best you have ever done, the best you have ever delivered. And who knows what effect it's going to have on the world. And it certainly will have a massive effect on you when it becomes a success because you have put the time and effort into it. And because you know what the amazing thing is? We all are exceptional human beings. You're exceptional. There is so much power and so much creativity and so much innovation in us if we can just have the courage to grasp that and to make a difference with it. Well, I trust that will be an encouragement to you today. Well, on to the clips. We do have a couple of their, we got a song from their early days, and that's Fun, Fun, Fun. This is just the Beach Boys classic live performance. You see everything that makes them so great. A very early performance from them, Fun, 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 from, I suppose, the teenage beach-laden days. We've also then got a performance of Good Vibrations here. This is live. Brian Wilson, guy with the beard, he's got some interesting little box which has created the sound, because it looks like to get Good Vibrations to work, they need to actually invent instruments to actually pull the song off. And so you see Brian, I think, very proudly performing with this new box that he's got. So there's a performance of Good Vibrations. And then because these guys have been around for so long, I've gone to a clip from the 1980s. And this is the song Kokomo, which was released in conjunction with the movie Cocktail. That had the movie with Tom Cruise and Brian Brown, and they were like doing the whole bartender, chucking the bottles up in the air, pouring drinks, and it was a bit of a fun movie, and actually a bit of a romantic comedy, and sort of was a massive hit. And Tom Cruise, who's just got that look about him, just nailed the role of this kind of, go for it sort of guy, and him wanting to create his own place, which he does at the end. So the Beach Boys, I suppose this is the official clip of the song Kokomo, and you just see that, how good their harmonies are, even 20 years after the start. So there's that song as well. So the links to those three songs are in the description below. And if you want to recap also on my video from the Bay City Rollers, certainly that video is there for you to have a look at as well. So I hope that's been an encouragement for you today. Beach Boys certainly have been a significant player in the music industry, and their legacy will probably go on forever, I am thinking. So good on you, Brian, for creating such an incredible act and leaving such an amazing legacy with this album, Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations. Well done indeed. And if you are watching this video, Brian, thank you for what you've brought to this world. You truly have been a genius, and the world has benefited from your genius. So thank you very much for that. Well, that's it for today. Next time, well, we're going on to, well, what more can I say? The Beatles next time. We probably will need to obviously do more than one video for the Beatles, I'm thinking, but that can wait till next time. And so until then, I catch you around.